Welcome to the grip. I didn't think we could ever reach the levels again of what we felt with Anthony Kim last week. And I don't think we did, but we certainly got some feels this week. When AK's jet took off from Australia, he created this big wave of Jetwash where all the golf this weekend got sucked up in it. In Thailand, a little girl, 14 years old, entered her first golf tournament. She didn't win, first professional tournament. That was 9 years ago. She came back to Thailand to win for the first time as the world #1 LPGA golfer, Gino Titty-Cool. She did it. She won in Thailand on her home turf. It was very emotional. She was emotional. The crowd went wild. And then the Jetwash picked up the PGA Tour in California at Riviera. Tiger Woods host tournament. Tiger Woods, the host of his tournament. Awesome event. PGA knocked it out of the park this week. The course was great. Weather made it a little bit soft, but the greens dried out. Eventually tested some of the best players in the world. And we have a first-time winner on tour as he barely sunk his putt on 18 to win. Guy just got married a couple months ago. His wife comes out, they embrace. He gets interviewed after. He is so emotional because of how much it means to him. And it was great to feel it and see it. And then the Jetwash goes to Africa. The magical Kenya Open, and getting picked up in the Jetwash was another first-time professional winner. 22-year-old Casey Jarvis would win the magical Kenya Open. And he's won on small tours, but not in the big leagues. It was not only his first win as a pro, it was the first time his dad got to see him win, and then they embrace. And again, all the feels felt pretty good. But to me, that wasn't the best story of the week. To me, it was the Kenyan professional golfers and how hard it is to be a pro in Kenya. And a young Kenyan made the cut, Joroge Kabuku, and making the cut there was like playing the Masters. They can dream of playing the Masters all they want as Kenyan professional golfers, but they can't even afford to fly out of the country to play another tournament. So just having a Kenyan make the cut at the magical Kenyan Open really was a dream, not just for the fans, but for Kibugu himself.
Kenya Open is not easy to come there and you say you can make it.
After Kenya Open, everyone forgets about Kenyan professionals. So
after 2 days of intense golf, only 71 made the cut.
We need more events around Kenya. Like for us pros, we don't get enough events. That's the thing. Last year we only had one event the whole of last year after Kenya Open. This year, please, you just need money. You need a guy just to help you out because it does get expensive. They're moving around.
It's very hard to make a cut in DP World Tour because we are playing with the best. With the best of the best in the world.
Sound like there's a lot of golf tournaments around here, and I think that's like a bit sad, you know.
the kids that we are training, we want them to see something in us so that they can also be encouraged.
However, the government promises have never been fruitful.
Joroge sank in the putt for an eagle, enough to take him through to the third round. His father was there too, and he rarely comes out on the course to watch the boys play.
Didn't even expect him to be there. But yeah, it's amazing to see. He was so happy. And it's nice sharing the emotion with him, you know. He's poured his heart and soul into me playing golf his whole life.
Into the moment, and it was really cool to see. And what it made me do is go down the rabbit hole to try to better understand what the challenges these guys face in Kenya. And I'll tell you what, right out of the gate, if I was like rich, a gazillionaire, a millionaire even, I would sponsor this kid. I'd give him $1 million because he had a couple rounds in the 60s. He showed he can play. He doesn't get the reps in all year playing against the best players in the world, right? So Kenya they don't have it. Their currency doesn't have the same value as other countries. He can't get on a plane and play other DP World Tour events because if he doesn't make the cut, it's going to be a huge loss. So for him to make the cut, to make it to the weekend, to see how the crowd got embraced, just to see his dad, you know, in that embrace. He ended up coming in 61st. He had a bad Saturday. I think he shot a few over par, but he came back 500 par on Sunday. He tied for 61st place. So he'd end up walking out of there with like $6,000, which is huge in Kenya. That's like half a year's salary for somebody considered in the upper bracket based on my research. So these guys, I learned there's a core of like 30 5 golfers that are professionals in Kenya, and they want to compete. And the government announced that they have a project 2028 to put Kenya in the Olympics in LA and have golf represented. But if these guys aren't prepped for it, they're not going to be able to get in. They're not going to invest in it. And so they created this thing with the private sector, which is really cool. You know, the private sector kicked in like $23,000 US. It sounded like a lot of money. I forget what it was, like 900 million Kenya shillings, whatever it is, the conversion. It's like $25,000. But these guys get to compete as teams of 4 against each other like 10 times, make a little bit of money, and get to play. So when the Kenya Open comes around again next year, they can try to get more to qualify, more to make the cut, get world ranking points. Maybe one of them gets top 5 or even wins, but they're really sending a message to the youngsters in Kenya. You know, I learned there's like 3,000 junior golfers in Kenya. There should be 10,000, and they need heroes to look up to so it can take them beyond Kenya. You know, it'd be great for a kid in Kenya to look at Mr. Kabugu as a hero, and that's everything sports is about, to inspire them, to lift them up, and maybe they could be playing in the US on the PGA or traveling the world playing with LIV, or just making a career on the DP World Tour, bringing golf to places like Kenya so they can pass on the vibe. So for me, that was just awesome to watch. DP World Tour, I'm surprised P. Reed didn't show up in Kenya. Didn't have all the top players in the DP World Tour there. Still a bunch of ballers, but I'm surprised Patrick Reed didn't show up just to accumulate the world ranking points to stick it to Rory McIlroy, because that's the kind of guy P. Reed is. So coming up this week on the DP World Tour is the South African Open, bringing some of the best players from all the tours together. This should be a good event. It's got guys from LIV, guys from the Asian Tour, guys from PGA, guys from DP World Tour, and then like Sunshine Tour and some exemptions they let in. So it should be great golf this weekend. Like I said, P. Reed's going to be there. Dean Burmeister's going to be there. One of the Vincent brothers going to be there. Ernie Els, right? Phil Mickelson's kind of, they're the same age of his generation. He's going to be playing there, one of the greatest golfers in the world. One of the only guys that used to take down Tiger Woods back in the day. So I'm excited to see if anything can come out of some of the coverage from the Kenya Open this weekend. If these guys can get into more DP World Tour events, exemptions, maybe somebody will step in, a sponsor, anybody. If anybody just happens to click on this on Spotify or YouTube, hey, Joroge Kibugu, man, he's a baller. You shoot in the mid-60s 2-3 times in a professional tournament, you can play. You just need an investment, plane travel, caddies, training, quality equipment, food while you're away, you know, a little insurance protection if you don't make the cut and you're stuck in France or Italy or somewhere, and now it cost you $10,000 and you didn't make any money. So good on the DP World Tour for committing to a stop in Kenya, and I'll be tuning into South Africa this weekend. PGA Tour also brought the feels. Riviera, like dead smack, it seems like, in the center of Los Angeles when you look at it on a map or the drone footage from above. Course is tough. Tiger Woods is there. And Tiger Woods was all the talk of the PGA leading up to this tournament.
Are you able to hit full shots yet? Or,
yeah.
And are you?
Yeah, I'm able to. Not well every day, but I can hit them.
Right, final thing with you in regards to your recovery. Is the Masters off the table for you?
No.
So what do you think? I want to know in the comments. Should Tiger be in the Masters? Listen, in the last few years, anything he got to play in, he had to drop out, withdraw, didn't make a cut. He barely made a cut at Masters a few years ago. He said himself he's just been working so hard off the golf course, in the boardroom, taking calls at all kinds of nights about the PGA mishmash. And I don't know. I would rather give the spot in the Masters to someone who's won this year, someone who's hot. Who could that be? How about Anthony Kim? Tell me in the comments, would you rather see Tiger Woods get the Masters this year or Anthony Kim? And by the way, Anthony Kim still holds the record at Augusta for most birdies, 11 of them ever made in a round. So any of the PGA guys winning leading up to the event are going to get into the Masters. You know, listen, Tiger's great. Without Tiger, I probably don't love golf. I respect him, but his days of competing and play are over. Anthony Kim at least showed that he's at level. He's at parity with professionals around the world, and he shows he can win. And what a story for the Masters to see him play there. Bridgeman, sinks his putt on 18. He wins at Riviera. It was awesome to see his wife run out, and they just got married. And last week, he's the guy that was he was on the beach on the last hole of the Pebble Beach tournament. He held up Colin Morikawa, who would go on to win, for like 40 minutes. He couldn't hit his approach shot into 18 because Bridgeman's down on the beach trying to hit up over the cliff, trying to figure out what to do, walking up and down. He hits a shot, it hits the rocks, goes back in the ocean, and it was a horrible finish. But the kid has been trending this year. He's been playing really great, and everybody came at him. He had a 6-stroke lead going into the final round. Now, we know it's possible to come back from a deficit like that. Anthony Kim did it. And also Rory McIlroy did it a couple of years ago, chasing down Scotty Scheffler in the Tour Championship. So it can be done. And this guy doesn't have the experience to have a 6-stroke lead against that field at Riviera going into the weekend. He barely held on. He ended up, I think he shot even par. He shot 72. I'm not 100% what the par at Riviera was. Now, Rory just kept missing putts, or he probably would have won by a lot because he was in birdie position and in contention all day. He started getting hot at the end. And then Adam Scott came out of nowhere. Kitayama played an amazing back nine. He was right there. So Bridgeman had a par the 18th hole. And then he wins. Rory would need a little bit of help from Bridgeman, and Kitayama and Adam Scott also at 17 under. So this kid goes in with a 2-stroke lead, just par the hole, all good, right? Don't bogey. Whatever you do, don't bogey the hole, and you got this. So he hits a great approach shot into 18, probably like a 10, 12-foot putt, maybe a little more. Must have felt like, 10 million feet for this kid. And he leaves it short. Why? He's nervous. And right before he hit his putt, Rory McIlroy from the fringe, over 40 feet away, an impossible downhill putt, dramatically rolls in the cup. The place goes crazy, like a stadium of just Rory. Everybody wants him.
A little pressure on Bridgeman to see one go in. Run it out. Run it out. Incredible.
Rory's like, go figure. The last hole of the
and then this kid feels that, and now Rory's within one. So they got 3 guys at 17 under. This kid's got to par it. If he bogeys it, there's going to be a tough playoff. So he leaves it 3 feet short, needs buckling. You got a 3-footer at Riviera. When he left it short, you could hear the stadium crowd be like, ooh, and that must have reverberated through him. He takes his time. He sets up. Kid drains it. Back of the cup, reaches quickly in, retrieves his golf ball, put it in his pocket, and then in that moment, right after he put it in his pocket, you could tell he knew he'd win. He raises up his arm. The emotions start. His wife comes out. It was a great weekend of golf for the PGA Tour. So they are in Florida. The Florida swing starts next week. The hero of the PGA Tour, Brooks Koepka, will be back in the field next week. He missed the cut last week. I believe it was last week, right? No, he didn't get to play PGA. 2 weeks ago, he missed the cut at the Waste Management. So he hasn't even played. Hopefully he's been working on his game. So let's get over some fake news here. Once the golf media jumped on the Anthony Kim story, it created a problem because what it did was it lifted up and validated LIV as a professional tour because you couldn't cover the story unless it had value, right? Anthony Kim winning on LIV is nothing if you hate LIV and you put down LIV, which these guys do every week. Oh, LIV's not worth it. That's not a serious tour. But then don't cover Anthony Kim. But they wanted to cover Anthony Kim because everybody was into it. The golf world was talking about it. So they wanted subscribers. They wanted viewers. They wanted to embrace it. And they did. And there was a couple that, the cognitive dissonance of them going, wow, it was amazing what Anthony Kim did, but it doesn't change how I feel about LIV. Of course it does. You just validated the whole thing because if Anthony Kim won, it was amazing. And if the tour is worthless, then you wouldn't cover him because it wouldn't be that amazing. It'd just be like, some guy in recovery wins a member guest somewhere. But you did. So it was great to see people eat crow. It was great to see people, tackle it a little bit, to play some verbal gymnastics. But either way, they forgot that story in a few days, and then LIV fake news was abundant this week. So let me clean up a couple things. The DP World Tour came out with a statement, and I've got a list of players here, that said they've come to an agreement in terms to release the following players on LIV from the debts they owe because they came up with a settlement and they're allowed to play in DP World Tour events going forward. They've already played in DP World Tour events. The problem is every time LIV teed it off against a DP World Tour event, they got fined, and these fines accrued over time. So this group of players paid their fines at some level, some sort of agreement. Laurie Cantor, Thomas Dietrich, Terrell Hatton, Tom McKibben, Adrian Moronk, Victor Perez, David Puig, and Elvis Smiley. Missing from that list was Jon Rahm. And then the media jumps in. Jon Rahm jeopardizes his future of being a Ryder Cup member. Jon Rahm, hates the DP World Tour. All kinds of clickbait. Listen, social media, it's not a real place. People that make comments on there, it's not the gospel. The headlines, though, are because it's the only place some people get their news. So these clickbait negative headlines about Jon Rahm is just irresponsibility by a lot of the corporate golf media and a lot of podcasts. All you had to do is some basic research. I watched Jon Rahm on the Subpar podcast last month. Great podcast. I think it's hosted by Colton Oast. Very fair guy. He talks about golf in a great way. He interviewed Jon Rahm. One of the things Jon Rahm said on this very issue was that, yes, they're fining him almost up to $3 million. And he did take issue with it because they're fining him for events that he's never played in the past and he would otherwise never play in the future. So he didn't find that fair. So he's negotiating with the DP World Tour. And he rightfully said himself, he does expect to make a financial agreement with them and pay his fines. But in their stipulation, these other guys will also have to play in specific events the DP World Tour will name later. We'll keep you posted on that. And that's not something Jon Rahm wants to do. He doesn't want to be controlled by a third-party tour. That's the whole point of LIV Golf, was autonomy and freedom to play golf around the world. So Jon Rahm doesn't jeopardize Ryder Cup because it's not even a Ryder Cup year. And the deal these guys signed was only 1 year deal presented by the DP World Tour because, of course, they're going to make an exception to let Jon Rahm in next year when they create a new agreement or new deal. So the media is irresponsible. They didn't just follow the facts. Jon Rahm said it himself. He's working on a settlement that's fair to him, right? And then also fair to the DP World Tour, but it's not ridiculous and it doesn't behold him to something. So that's one piece of LIV rage bait fake news last week. Another one was on the financial side. This is just crazy. A few months ago, the big negative LIV story was LIV has lost almost $470 million last year for their tax filing for the previous year. Oh my God, LIV, it's bankrupt. It's dead in the water. Look they just keep spending money. And then they brought up the point, LIV has invested almost $5 billion and they're only 5 years old. And everybody's like, it's a financial loss. They're crazy. And then this week, LIV announced the PIF of Saudi Arabia is investing another $260 million into the tour. The tour also signed a new event production long-term contract to help more efficiently produce their events. So this brings up the news. LIV just keeps hemorrhaging money. It's a total financial loss. Let's hit the brakes. Time out. If LIV is doing this wrong, then they learned from the PGA Tour. Here's why. And nobody talks about this. Just do some due diligence, golf media. The PGA Tour's tax filing, you know how much they lost? $61 million. Now, okay, $9 million less than LIV. So in the same filing year, they lost $460 million of debt. Why is anybody talking about that? They're like, they make it look so bad that LIV did it. And by the way, SGS invested how much? $3.5 billion into the PGA Tour starting in 2024. So I'd say LIV is either ahead of the game financially or on par, which is crazy because the PGA has been doing this for decades. Shouldn't they have it together by now? So these financial disputes and media coverage and using it as a negative tool to say LIV is dead are totally false, totally incorrect, totally not accurate because they are exactly on par with the PGA. The last bit of news we need to clean up for anybody still listening on the LIV side. Again, we do this because nobody represents LIV fairly. I'm a fan of all golf. I just praise the PGA Tour for what they did, and I'm going to praise LIV for the good things they do. But the facts are the facts. Headlines. After the Anthony Kim was covered to death, where even Anthony Kim can't save LIV's viewerships. TV ratings down. We're back on the TV ratings train. It's a disaster for LIV. They're losing again. Come on, people. So let's look inside the numbers. I'm not a fan of like Nielsen TV ratings anyways, because now you're assuming statistically that families set a box into their cable system and we get to measure statistically what we think that would be if the whole country, on par, on average, did it. But we really don't know who did it. We don't know who pays for apps or not. Statistics is a funny thing. You can make the numbers work for you. It's like presidential elections in the US. You can make the data work for you or make it work against you. Regardless, let's look at the facts presented and how great it is for LIV and what it's showing, how they're growing. The Anthony Kim, the biggest TV market in the United States is the East Coast. It only aired on Fox at 11 p.m. at night, 11 p.m. at night. And yet it still drew over 1 million individual households based on Nielsen data as a reach. It reached over 1 million households, but on average, only 330,000, fake number, I think. But either way, 330,000 people averaged over the time period at 11 o'clock night, a sporting event. Golf on the other side of the world was on. I'd say that's fantastic. In fact, it's 40% more than LIV did last year, not on a broadcast network that's in everybody's basic cable package, in an app. And guess what? I looked at the Australian data. They also had a household reach of 1.1 million. And they're not even, 15, 20% of the size of the US. So that's crazy. And their average reach for that final round was also around 300,000. So I kept going into Korea, into Japan, into Vietnam. Guess what? It's fair to say 3.5 to 4 million people tuned in to watch Anthony Kim do something amazing. So for the U.S. golf media to turn those numbers into something negative. Oh, by the way, we didn't even include the LIV app, which probably is another 250 to 350,000, where it's free to watch outside the U.S. in most countries through the app. So it's all bullshit. LIV has killed it with their ratings this week with over 1 million reach, a 330,000 average for a sports event on the other side of the world. Golf, nonetheless, at 11 o'clock to midnight to 1 a.m. on a Friday is awesome. So good job, Scott O'Neill and the LIV team. So other LIV news we want to clean up. Phil Mickelson, Lee Westwood, they haven't played an event yet. They've missed 2 LIV events. LIV expanded the relegation zone this year. So both of them are going to be, this is true, in trouble if they don't win or perform in the top, because an exemption hasn't been announced for them. So they're so far behind the 8 ball, they may never catch up. It'd be a shame to lose Phil Mickelson, one of the most popular U.S. golfers. And of course, Lee Westwood, one of the most popular European golfers. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I hope there's an exemption for him that they work out, because Lee's injured. I know they have some sort of injury like caveat in there, but I'm not 100% clear on it. So this is what's going on this week in golf. A lot of good feels, a lot of bullshit information still out there on LIV. But to me, the sports world really warmed my heart at the Olympics. And that's what the Olympics does. If you love sports, no matter what country you're in, it's a I like winter sports Olympics because I'm a hockey player. I love skiing. And of course, we knew on Sunday, the United States beat Canada to win the gold medal in hockey, and why it was emotional and special. Just, again, puts the exclamation point on why we love sports for the feels. USA team wins, but they were missing a player, Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey. He got killed last summer from a drunk driver. He's dead. He couldn't play on Team USA, but they honored him and his family anyways. He could have been on that team. He should have been on that team, and he wasn't there. And when the USA won, it was time to pose on the center ice for their picture for the whole world to see. U.S. wins gold medal. And I watched it with my daughter. She plays hockey. She's 12 years old. We were listening. She was watching on the way to her hockey game, but then we lost service. So I missed the ending, only to get there and turn it on to see us going around with the flag. But then something special happened. 2 bloody, sweaty, big equipment-laden hockey players walked through the bench, opened the door into the crowd, reached up and grabbed 2 little kids, toddlers, baby toddlers, I'm not sure of the age, brought them out on the ice. These kids didn't flinch. They smiled. They weren't scared. And like any kid in the stadium grabbed by a guy coming off the ice would be scared. Those kids were the young children of Johnny Hockey. His family was there watching that gold medal game, and they took a picture with the team. The team embraced the family. The little kids of Johnny Hockey held up his jersey. One of the kids put their hand on Johnny Hockey's jersey. It was so emotional. But the best part about it was those little kids, they didn't flinch at these two guys coming off the ice and grabbing them, because it just goes to show how great sports are, that those hockey players have been supporting this family and close to them all along, that those kids felt very familiar in the arms with these Olympic gold medal winners. So another great week for the fields and sports. I'll catch you next time on The Grip.